Hello and welcome to this lecture on Premchand's The Chess Players. This lecture is a continuation of the previous session where I discussed the short story genre and Premchand's emphasis on a psychological climax which emphasizes the theme or a profound idea or a philosophical perspective over an incident. Okay, now if you recall, there is great problem in Mirza's home in terms of their chess playing. This game is loathed in Mirza's house and his wife is terribly displeased, and the Begum puts an end to the playing of this particular game. And now the game is shifted to Mir's home. And the problem is not that the Begum hates the game, it's the obsession which disrupts the domesticity in Mirza's home, which pushes the Begum to react in an almost hysterical manner in which he throws the chessboard, flings the pieces away and shuts the door against, almost against his friend Mir, who kind of slinks away like a thief. So, when the game is moved to Mir's home, Mir Roshan Ali's home, his wife, his Begum is also unhappy. So, she is also equally displeased, and that is for another specific reason. We'll come to the reason in a short while. So, this was the state of affairs when they spread the chessboard in the guest house of Mir's home. Let me read the extract. When the chessboard was spread in Dewan Khana and Mir Sahib stopped going out, the Begum became edgy. Her freedom was curtailed. She hardly had any chance to have a glimpse of the outside. The word edgy is particularly interesting in the context of the Begum, and the narrator says that her freedom was stopped, curtailed, put an end to, and because of the continuous presence of her husband in the house, she couldn't even manage to get a glimpse of the outside world. So the chess playing at Mir's home causes some obvious troubles for his wife, and there is a deeper subversive subtext to this game of chess which is played at Mir's house, because the wife wants the husband away for other reasons too. We'll come to that in a minute. So, as I said, the word edgy is very interesting because the Begum becomes anxious. If you remember the wife of Mirza, she becomes anxious for another reason. She is anxious and edgy because the husband is never around in the house. And on the contrary, Mir's Begum becomes anxious when he is within the house. So, we have two opposites, two polar extremes here depicted or orchestrated in this particular story. So, we have two domesticities. There is one domesticity in Mirza's home where the wife wants the husband at home with her, while there is another where the wife wants the husband away from the home. So, as I said, the freedom of Mir's Begum is restricted, and the husband's activities impact negatively on the wife's mobility as well. And there is, as I said, a less admirable side to Mir's wife, which is revealed gradually in this story. There is almost a small mystery that has been kind of weaved or woven into this narrative. Equally, we have less admirable servants in Mir's home as well. The wife is less admirable and so are the servants. So, there seems to be a mirror image here playing out in this particular narrative. If you recall the two friends, they are also almost mirror images of one another, and the servants seem to mirror the lackadaisical attitude of their masters too. So, we have a really interesting extract which discusses that aspect of the servants in the story. Up until now, they sat idle, warding off flies. They were never bothered by guests, but now they had to take orders the whole day. Now to fetch the pan, now sweets, and the hookah kept smouldering like a lover's heart. This is the context of the servants in Mir's home, where until now they had an empty home because they didn't have the master at home, so they didn't have any business at home as well. But now, since the master is at home with his friend, they constantly have to run errands. They have to take orders the whole day. They have to bring the pan, they have to bring the sweets, and the hookah has to be kept running as well. And it's very interesting to see that simile there, where the hookah is described as smouldering like a lover's heart, constantly throbbing without any rest. So what is clear in this particular extract is a sheer dislike of work. In other words, it's a shirking of responsibility. It's a rejection of responsibility, almost an overt shirking of responsibility. And such an idea is beautifully put in a rhetorical way in that particular extract by the narrator. So if you look closely at the lines, there's a neat parallelism there. Now to fetch the pan, now sweets. So two ideas are brought one after the other in a corresponding manner. And as I said, there is a rejection of responsibility, and that too done in a direct manner. The job of the servants in that particular period was just to meet the demands of the masters, and that was their responsibility. But they reject that kind of job that they had to do then. So it's very interesting that they can do that in an overt manner. So this is the picture that the narrator paints for us. And what's very significant about this rejection of responsibility is the fact that it indicates at a large scale corruption, a large scale disorder in society. So the servants become symbolic of the kind of corruption which is at play in the city of Lucknow in the 19th century. So every subject in that hierarchy, in that social order, seems to be implicated in the moral and social disorder and chaos that's kind of playing out in 19th century Lucknow. And I want also to pick up on the image of a business house, especially a sweet shop. If there are no customers in a sweet shop, the assistants in the shop would just be sweeping away or taking a swipe at or warding off flies. And that metaphor seems to be employed in the context of Mir's home, when in the absence of Mir, the servants at home seem to be doing the exact same thing which shop assistants in a sweet shop would do when there are no customers. So there is no business at home when there is no master at home. That parallel seems to be drawn there. And again, the simile that I mentioned in passing there, hookah smouldering like a lover's heart, it's a interesting parallel there between a hookah and the heart of a lover. And in this particular story, there are hardly any romantic plots or a domestic, happy domesticity plot in the story, because as I said, both the wives of the two central characters are disgruntled with their husbands in some respect or the other, and there is a disruption of domesticity, a clear disruption of domesticity in both the homes, in both Mirza's home and in Mir's home, and they are kind of orchestrated in a different manner. In the case of Mirza, the wife longs for the husband's attention, and in the case of Mir's home, there is another rival for the husband who is always away from the home. So the comparison of a hookah to a lover's heart in relation to Mir and Mirza is a little bit ironical, because none of them are akin to a lover in their relationship with their wives. So this is how the game of chess is perceived in the society of Lucknow. This game is evil. That's what the servants at Mir's home say to the Begum. But this game is evil. The person playing it never prospers. There's a nice consonants here, P and P. The person playing it, again, P, playing it, it never prospers. A misfortune is bound to fall upon such a house, so much so that we have seen whole neighborhoods being ruined one after the other. Everyone in the neighborhood is talking about it. We are his faithful servants and don't like to hear him maligned. Maligned is criticized severely, maliciously. So this is the rhetoric of the servants at Mir's home. So they make this complaint to his wife, Mir's wife, the Begum, and they say that everybody in the neighborhood is talking and complaining about it, and the game is an evil game, and whoever plays this game of chess will never prosper. In fact, they will have a severe fall in fortune. And in fact, people who play this, hordes of people who play this will always meet with a bad end. Now, there is a lot of foreboding in the words of the servants uttered to the lady of the house. There are threats of the downfall of the home of Mir in that set of ideas that the servants communicate to the mistress of the home. That's very clear, especially the choice of words, evil, and the idea of never prospering. People will never prosper, will never get wealthier. Misfortune, the word misfortune, bad fortune or bad luck, and it's going to fall upon such a house. And the word ruined, whole neighborhoods, I mean, people in those neighborhoods who play this game obsessively will be ruined one after the other. The idea of entire society kind of crumbling or getting destroyed, and this choice of words, this diction creates a certain mood of foreboding and warning and prophesying. It's almost a foreshadowing of the fall of Mir, and with Mir, his friend, as well as the entire society, including the Nawab's fall. So everything is implicated in that sense of foreboding that the servants communicate to the mistress to the lady of the house. And it's such a significant set of ideas. And the servants say, we are his faithful servants and don't like to hear him maligned. This is pretty ironical, his faithful servants, because it's ironical, as we saw in the previous slide, that they reject the responsibility that is endowed on them as servants, and the servants are supposed to fetch and carry and meet all the demands of the masters, at least in the context of the 19th century, when the servants are almost like slaves of the masters. So they are not faithful servants in that context, and so there is an element of hypocrisy in their words as well, especially the last statement. They say we don't like to hear him maligned, which is why we have come to you to get your help in sorting out this problem, in saving our master from such criticism, such negative talk. So there is a foreboding, there are threats about the fall of the house, and there is hypocrisy on the part of the servants who behave in a morally righteous manner when they don't seem to have that opinion out of genuine regard for the master, and they do have that kind of attitude because they want to get away from their responsibilities. They want to shirk work and do something else. So The other social realistic part that we derive from this extract is the idea that the entire neighborhood is getting ruined by this pleasure that they derive from the game of the chess. The chess is the one pleasure that afflicts the home of Mir and Mirza, whereas other kinds of pleasures are corrupting the homes of other people in the society of Lucknow. It could be writing poetry, it could be listening to music, it could be, you know, enjoyment of cuisine or the prostitutes. A whole range of pleasure sources are at the hands of the people of Lucknow, and entire homes and the neighborhoods are involved in this pleasure pursuit. And that is made clear in that extract too. As if it's a kind of an epidemic. Pleasure has become an epidemic that's sucking out the life spirit of the entire society. And the servants chorus-like, they are like a chorus in Greek plays, where they communicate the state of affairs of the society to the audience. So they play that chorus-like role while having a kind of an individualistic identity as well endowed on them in terms of their attitude towards work. So they play the role of the chorus as well as have certain individualistic meaning bestowed on them by the narrator. And as I said, there is false sincerity in their words, especially in the closing statements that they make to the Begum, where they say that they make this plea to her because they are worried about the reputation of their master and not because of any other consideration. So there is also irony in their terms, especially in how they kind of present their perspective to the mistress of the house. And the other major role that extract plays is offer the society's attitude towards chess playing, in which the game becomes the symbol of evil as well as the symbol of ruin, ruin of entire families. And some of the critics also suggest that the chess also becomes a symbol of luxury. It becomes a symbol of wealth and privilege, where you know, only the people who are rich and privileged enough can you know, enjoy the privilege of playing this particular game. So this game of chess is multidimensional in its symbolic value that it has for the society at large. Okay, so we have seen the perspective of Mir's wife and the suffering that she undergoes when Mir stays at home. For her, on a surface level, she can't get out of the house because the husband is at home. That's her trouble, one of her troubles. If you look at the servants' predicament, they have to run errands the entire day. They have to fetch and they have to serve, they have to look after the masters who enjoy the game of chess continuously all day long. So that's their predicament. And when they make the complaint, they say that you know, we are kind of giving you the opinion of the others in society as well. Now the narrator then offers the perspective of the neighborhood. That would be the last perspective that we have in relation to the game of chess, which is played at Mir's home. So we have the wives, we have the servants, and we have the servants' you know, indirect representation of the neighborhood's ideas, and then we have the neighborhood's ideas as well for our information. So this is what the society or the neighborhood has to say about the game of chess. Nothing good will come of it. When our aristocracy is behaving in this manner, God alone can save the country. This kingdom will be ruined because of this game. It's an evil sign. So this is what the neighborhood thinks. The neighborhood thinks that the aristocracy is to blame because they are supposed to be the custodians of the kingdom, they are the officers of the state, and if they don't behave in a responsible manner, then nobody else but God can save the country. And the game of chess is a sign of evil. So again, the idea of evil being embedded in this game of chess is highlighted, brought to the surface again and again. And the aristocracy is especially marked out for receiving the blame because they are at the highest levels of society, and they are seen as models for the people to kind of form their behavior and lead their life. So if the aristocracy is corrupt, then accordingly the people below them would also follow their example. So, as I said, the servants and the people of old school both choose this particular game of chess as the common enemy of the public, and this evil that is associated with the game is once again reinforced by the opinions of the neighborhood as well. And because it's a very simplistic and reductive formula, but because of the game of chess, because of this addiction to the game of chess, because chess itself becomes a massive symbol, the country is threatened. So we have a very exaggerated as well as a very simplistic formula which accrues a lot of symbolic value to this particular chess game, and this chess game is sort of pointed out as the common enemy, a common enemy of the public good, and as a result of this common enemy, the country is brought to a ruin. So Premchand kind of sketches a exaggerated but a neat model where it's easy to point the finger of blame at a few people or a few characters in this particular narrative. So, what is the consequence of the pleasure that is drenching the surface of the country, drenching the society, drenching the people in Lucknow? So, even when people are being robbed in the countryside outside of Lucknow, there is nobody who could listen to their complaints and get redressal for their problems. So there is hardly any administration, there are hardly any guardians who could save the people. So the countryside is also pauperized, the countryside is becoming poorer and poorer, and that's probably because wealth is kind of taken out from the countryside and injected into the city, and the city is enjoying the luxuries that it is deriving from elsewhere, and the entire society of Lucknow is drowned in sensual pleasures, pleasures that involve prostitutes, buffoons, music, writing poetry, and the game of chess. So we have chaos in the country, and the people who are supposed to be the guardians, who are supposed to be the upholders of the rule of law, are away from their offices or away from their positions of power, and they are involved in other pursuits of pleasure. So this is the extract that neatly shows the impact of the pleasure pursuits of the officers of the state, and it hints at the ruin that's going to arrive at the doorstep of Lucknow. The blanket of debt to the English company was becoming wetter and heavier every day. Because of the absence of good administration, taxes were not being collected fully. The resident was constantly threatening, but people drenched in voluptuous pleasures were not listening. So, the immediate problem is hinted at there. The immediate problem is the English East India Company that is getting tired of not receiving the taxes from the people, and the city of Lucknow is getting indebted to this company, and that issue of debt is going to bring some kind of massive trouble for the people of the country. So there's a lot of interesting metaphors that has been employed in this particular extract. Let's look at the first one, the blanket of death. Death itself is like a blanket that's thrown over the people, and it's kind of suffocating. So the blanket of death to the English company was becoming wetter, and it's not just a blanket which is suffocating, which is covering the entire populace of Lucknow and Oudh. It is also becoming wetter. It's become terribly uncomfortable. So it was becoming wetter and heavier. It's a very suffocating metaphor that's been used there, and the countryside was being, the country of Lucknow was being threatened by the resident being the British Resident General, who wants his taxes from Lucknow, but that's not getting to his treasure chest, probably because the officers of the state, the aristocrats, are not doing their job of collecting the taxes. Instead, what they're doing is they are drenched in voluptuous pleasures. So I'm reminded of the servants who do not want the masters at home because they don't want to do any work for the master. So we can draw a parallel between the servants within a home of an aristocrat and the aristocrats within the country who are answerable to the British Resident General. So we can see some parallels there, interesting symbolic parallels that are drawn in this particular narrative. So the country was becoming massively indebted to the company. So we know what happens when the country becomes becomes indebted, because we can see, or because we have seen in history that the company can take over the rule of law, take over the administration from the local rulers, and there's a clear indication that the pleasures are the source of corruption in society. So there is a deep moral corruption in the society, and that is the source of the problem in Oudh, or in the region of Oudh, and that's why it eventually is annexed by the English East India Company. So it's also important to note that the impact of the pleasure, the immediate impact of pleasure pursuits, is the inability to function. All ability to function is erased, and that is evident in this particular extract, where the narrator says that the people were not listening. It's as if their ears have stopped listening, as if they bodily, as if they have stopped functioning as human beings, because they are they have become immobile, they have become addicted to some other pursuits. So let's be clear about the state of the people in the country of Oudh. We have the country people on the one side, and we have the city folk of Lucknow, and we have the aristocrats who are the cream of the society, and above the aristocrat we have the Nawab, who is ruling the country. The country people are helpless because we can see that the country has become pauperized, wealth has been sucked out of the country, and the country people are getting robbed by criminals, and nobody is helping them. So they are in a helpless, vulnerable state. They are in a helpless situation. How about the city folk? The city folk in Lucknow. The city folk are very comfortable, they are sedate, and they are enjoying the joys of life. As I said, they are writing poetry to the extreme without taking care of any of the productive aspects of life. So the people of Lucknow, be it the rich or be it the poor, they are all involved in activities which is not directly helpful for the running of the society. And the aristocrats who are represented by Mir and Mirza in this particular story, seem to represent the entire section of this particular strata of society. And the aristocrats obviously are not very responsible officers of the state. They are engaged in all sorts of pleasures, and chess represents one of them. So the city folk, as I said, are decadent, hedonistic, and the aristocrats are passive, they are not active at all. They are passive in relation to the responsibilities that have been endowed on them by the ruler of this particular country, and they are hedonistic. They are completely slaves to the pleasures that they can derive from the material aspect of society. And the country people, in relation to these two sections, are completely helpless. So this is the state of affairs of the people in the country, in the region of Oudh in 1856. Thank you for listening. I'll catch up with you in the next session.